So right off the bat, sorry if some of this video looks a little weird, but New Japan don't really like us using their images, which is totally cool. It's up to them. But it means if you do want to do a review on YouTube, you have to tread carefully. It's also another reason we don't cover a lot of New Japan stuff. People go, oh, I can't believe you're not doing it. We'd like to, man. Sometimes you gotta look the face in the face. But given that we did have a double header at the Tokyo Dome this weekend, and in terms of Saturday, it was very AEW focused. Hello, my friends, I am Sabre Miller, and the finger of power is back. That's what I learned over the weekend. I am also responsible for ruining wrestling. So from now on, you can call me exactly that, officially the ruiner of wrestling. And if you are a wrestling promotion, you better watch your ass, because me and my finger are looking for you. That's a weird thing to say. Let's up those doubts. The first match was hilarious too because it was essentially a version of the Casino Gauntlet, which is like a brand new child that has been born into the world, and now everybody loves it. And I'm on board. I love it too. It also meant all the opponents weren't absolute mystery, although it was 4 guys from New Japan and 4 guys from CMLL. So here they are. It was Hechicero, Fujita, Soberano Jr., Master Wato, Mascara Dorada, Ishimori, Titan, and El Desperado. He's the junior heavyweight champ. Now I do want to shout out Dorado here, because his flippy dippy doodah stuff was absolutely fantastic, and my word, what a future he has. But also, Desperado had a bad night. Because he basically won his championship under suspicious circumstances, I suppose you could call it. So when he did walk in, everybody in this match just stopped and looked at him like, oh, there he is. It's that guy. I think we should all beat him up. So they did. I absolutely love that stuff though, because it makes me happy. When every single person was like, right, we've done that now. Why don't we just go flippy doodah 9,000? And it was just so much fun to watch. I know it's not for everyone, but I can only see it from my seeing devices. And I loved it. Desperado and Vegeta, I then thought, well, you know, we've done some of that. So now we're going to do some wrestling. From nowhere, they basically did a 180 and they were like grappling. Ishimori, I think, was totally offended by that because he quite literally took the referee and basically hurled that guy into this mess. When he got the Gato clutch onto Desperado, and not only did he win, he got the victory, I think he then realized, man, I need to get out of Dodge, and he legged it. So it was just a great showcase for the junior heavyweights, and we should really make this a yearly tradition, and that way you can get even bigger surprises and even more, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That can be the secret sauce when it comes to wrestling. When I refuse to get mad. I'm sorry, I just do. Sometimes beggars can't be choosers, and as we did learn 24 hours ago, we were actually going to get a match between Tanahashi and Shibata on this show. And listen, I understand all the shenanigans here, given that it was capped at 5 minutes, but even when they did come out, just watching it, I was like, seriously, they could sit down and play chess, and I would still be involved. Now don't forget that Shibata almost died a few years ago, and then yes, he fell out with NJPW, because he told them he was just gonna do an exhibition, then he snuck out there and did a proper wrestling match. So the fact we are finally back here, well, repeat what I just said, I'm not getting mad at it. I think we also build this as a brutal exhibition war, which is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. And all they really did was respect each other, and then chop each other so hard that it looked like they'd been burnt in the oven. I mean, their chests were bright red. And there's really not much else to say about this, because again, 5 minutes in professional wrestling goes really fast. But afterwards, they shook hands, and I felt it. Right here, I was like, man, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. So I do understand that it lacked importance, but my word, it made up for that with gravitas. And given that Tanahashi is retiring at the end of the year, we may never see this again. So I'm just gonna take it as a nice little present, reminding me of what once was. I'm absolutely giving it up. When things took a very succinct turn, because it was Mercedes Moné taking on Mina Shirakawa, and don't forget, this was essentially a winner-takes-all match. Whoever did get the W was going away with a lot of belts. Mercedes continued to remind everyone that she is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and honestly, when it comes to Mina, somebody just needs to throw a bunch of money at her and have her appear more consistently on whatever TV show it is, because she is just too damn good. Moné also did this mad dive at one point, and later on actually fell from the top rope, or Shirakawa basically pushed her, and that may have been a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to everything that happened with Willow Nightingale a couple of years ago. And it worked on me. I freaked out. I thought she was going to get injured again. Mina learned instantly that, oh my gosh, I can use this. So when after the wound, and seriously, she was kicking Mercedes' ass, when Moné realized, oh my gosh, I can hit you with a Meteora. And listen, I'm sure I'm being a biased Bill here, but when she did hit it, I was like, Why does everything feel more brutal in Japan? When they found themselves on the knees too, they were just slapping the shit out of each other, and some of the noises here were totally crazy. And when Mone went for the Mone Maker, I kid you not, Shirakawa quite literally wiggled and jiggled, and she got out of it when she took Mercedes to the top rope and she gave her an avalanche DDT. So her plan was, we're gonna go as high as possible and I'm gonna spike your head into the mat. 1-2-0. Mercedes eventually took her med pack, so she got the three amigos when they were just going back and forth because Mina wanted the Venus driver, that didn't work. And then Mercedes went for the bank statement, whatever we call it these days, and that didn't work either. When they continued to trade, I think Mercedes realized, listen man, I ain't getting paid by the hour. She hit the Mone Maker. This one actually looked quite good. That move is 50-50 when it comes to successful landings, but she got the 1-2-3. And yes, now not only does she have a bunch of titles, but one of them is essentially the Red Pro Women's Championship, which means Mercedes Mone must be coming to London. So I think that's pretty cool, as was this match. Again, I'm just gonna double down on it. They're absolutely two of the best that are doing it right now, and they have great chemistry. You know the deal with that. When you have great chemistry, somebody should give you a science class to teach. When David Finlay certainly put in his card to be called the MVP of the weekend. Because not only did he have a right banger yesterday, and as many people said, maybe he is one of the most improved of 2024, he was taking on Brody King here, meaning he had a completely different challenge, but he rose to the occasion. This Brody King, he's another guy. If somebody wants to make him a world champion in 2025, I ain't going to argue it. He just loves hurling people around, whether he is in the East or West too. So you know the deal. He grabbed Finlay and he threw him into Barricade. Sorry for Barricade, doesn't matter where he is built, somebody is going after him. I mean, if you want to break the theme of this match down to David surviving, you perfectly can, which is also probably the name of a terrible indie film on Netflix, which is why David actually had a tactic, because he was like, it doesn't matter how big you are, you have eyes, and if I poke you in your seeing devices, you're not going to be able to see. He was 100% correct. Finlay then used his body and Barricade to try and get revenge, but Brody King didn't care about any of this, and inspired by Taylor Swift, he essentially shook it off. Now I promise you nobody else will drop that line today. This is when Brody just slammed David Finlay over and over again. Look at the shirt, man. It sums it up. He could only get a 1-2-0. It really was like watching a bear try to kill a human being though. But if you've got on the internet, it will tell you that in order to fight back with a bear, you should bop it on the nose. So essentially that is what David Finlay did. And he hit all these crazy power moves, including a power bomb on Brody King. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. He must have then maxed out his MP because he did hit the Oblivion or the Overkill or whatever the flap he calls those things. And he pinned Brody for the 1-2-3. I was actually looking around like, well, how the flub did he do that? We really did say it like David Finlay had to kill himself to get the win. So given that he did lose his championship 24 hours ago, this felt like a massive reset. And it gets me pretty pumped for what he could do in 2025. And hey, everybody's saying his contract is up. Man, he does go to an AEW. I think he'd do very well. When the easy-to-watch madness just continued, although actually this one had a huge importance to it, was Claudio Castagnoli versus Shota Umino. Now, if you did watch yesterday, you know that Shota main evented against Zack Sabre Jr., and the general consensus was, no, Umino, we don't want you in that spot. So yeah, he had to do something here. He's another guy that maybe needs a little bit of a reset. New Japan clearly wants to make this work though, so they put Shota in a position he has been in before. Claudio Castagnoli was like, well, hello, my friend. I'm going to beat the piss out of you, and you're gonna have to fight from underneath. I mean, Castagnoli even jumped the guy during his entrance, so I really think we were trying to build some sympathy for Shota. And honestly, Claudio is so good, and he was definitely inspired by Brody King, because he was just throttling this guy. I mean, at one point, he threw Umino off the top rope like he was a child. You know the deal. You should never throw a child. Castagnoli then swung his ass, which is a stupid sentence by me, and when that didn't work, he sunk in the Boston Crab. And that was a pile of nonsense, because I tell you, of all the people, Claudio is definitely not from Boston. So it was just a crab. This tied into the above though, because Shota Umino just wouldn't quit. When Castagnoli was like, fine, I threw you off the top rope once, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do it again. So he wanted to kill him. Of course, you can't do something twice in wrestling, so Shota just fired back with all these strikes and all these elbows, when he too hit an avalanche DDT. So that's it. I know how wrestling works, and often it does come from the Tokyo Dome shows. Every single wrestler will now do this throughout 2025. Claudio still came back with a Ricola bomb, but once again, the whole point is that Shota had his number when he hit the double underhook driver, and he got the 3. Even then, I was like, well, hot damn. I didn't think it was going to happen. So again, I really do think NJPW has seen the kind of bizarre reception that Shota has been getting, but now is like, damn it, we've got to make this work. And putting him in more positions like this makes all the sense in the world. Now, if you ask me, I am still the same old G, but I would not have made that main event yesterday, 35 minutes, whatever it was. Sometimes you can just do 15. That would have been perfectly fine. Let's book around the opponents we do have, but moving that to one side, good match. Up. When we had another contender for Man of the Weekend, because out came Takeshita. I'm getting scared about this guy, because he just keeps getting better and better. He was also putting his brand new Openweight title on the line, as well as the AEW International title, and admittedly that did take some jeopardy away from this, because Takeshita was never going to lose, although his opponent was Ishii. And Ishii turned up and was like, listen, I'm just gonna be Ishii, and that's all right with all of you, because it's all right with me, and he was totally correct, because he's Ishii. What? It was just so well thought out though, because not only did it feel like a New Japan match from like 10 years ago, Takeshita kind of had to approach this differently, because you can't just take Ishii down. Like, you can grab his head and smash it into a wall, and he does kind of wiggle jiggle for a little bit, then he just comes back and he lariats your bones off. I mean, Takeshita did whack him so many times, anybody else would have died. When he also hit the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. And did it work? Of course it didn't. It never does. To be fair, he then did escalate this because he basically hit an avalanche Falcon Arrow, but Ishii kicked out of that. Now, one, if it was anybody else, I would be mad, but it was Ishii. And two, don't worry, because that was actually going to pay off during the finish. Even though he'd basically been murdered, Ishii still hit this damn Hurricane Rana when he started his lariat death train. But even that couldn't take out Takeshita, not to dinner, because he responded with all the elbows. They still went back and forth, and honestly, it's just so easy to watch, but also terrifying, because once again, they were hitting each other so hard. When Ishii took a poison Rana because he doesn't care, when that's right, Takeshita hit his Falcon Arrow, which is called Raging Fire or something, which sounds like it came right out of an RPG, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Now, one, that rhymes, so it must be true, but also two, isn't it nice that he keeps winning with Falcon Arrows, and he has the big knee, which he also scored with? Anyway, the answer is yes. So maybe this was exactly what you would expect given what both guys bring to the table, but man, there's nothing wrong with that. I'd eat that for dinner for the rest of my life. When the Young Bucks return to New Japan, there's always going to be a corner of the internet that is never going to give Matt and Nick Jackson their due, but I will. This felt like a massive moment. Once again, they proved, oh, by the way, we're one of the best tag teams of all time. They're also fighting for the tag team titles against Naito and Takahashi, as well as the Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. So really, they all just settled into this nice and early. Though actually, that's not true. The Young Bucks watched the other two teams fighting and they were like, well, we're just going to stand here and do nothing, which is a terrible idea, because eventually they realized this and they went and whipped the Young Bucks. Now, I do want to sing out Jeff Cobb for just 1 second, because in terms of powerhouses and being totally unique, he is right up there. It's kind of a mystery somebody hasn't thrown a massive contract at him, although maybe he's just happy in New Japan, and maybe he's being paid quite well. I hope so. He deserves it. But at one point, he grabbed the Young Bucks and gave them a double German suplex. You just can't do that. You have to be built different. And it really was him and Okan that acted like they were large and in charge. And listen, while it was great seeing Takahashi and Naito in this, I'm also just a bit worried they are slightly broken. I mean, Naito talked about this recently. He basically can't see. Soon after this, though, you know the deal. It just went you go, I go, we all go. And I do want to shout out the Young Bucks specifically, because I think they had some beef in their shoe, whatever that means, but they wanted to send a message out there that they haven't lost a step, and they really haven't, man. Some of the sequences and the timings and the 1-2 oohs, I mean, they kept you on the edge of the seat because, again, anybody could have won these tag team titles. They were out there to be grabbed. And you could even argue there was too much action going on here, because at one point it was so nuts on the outside and so nuts on the inside, the camera people couldn't keep up with it. But I actually thought that added to the chaos. As we all know, who inspired that? Dr. Robotnik. The Bucks then did go super asshole because they were like, hey, LIJ, why don't we work together? As soon as they had served their purpose, what did Matt Nick do? They mugged him off. They then had a couple of super kicks on the Great Okan, who sold it so damn good. And when they set up the Meltzer driver, they also did a moonsault on the outside to take everybody else out when they did hit their finishing move, 1, 2, 3. And in January 2025, who are the New Japan Tag Team Champions? It's the flubbing Young Bucks. So they really were on fire here, although once again, yes, I know that it wasn't for you, that person that always has to throw this my way. And I suppose there is a tiny criticism that maybe LIJ didn't need to be in this, but those two are legends, man, so I had no problem with it. This also means that the Young Bucks are going back to New Japan, which gets me very excited for 2025. Up. Now I am going to throw a quick down in here because it really wasn't a big deal, but when we got to our next match, just another one where I was like, man, I don't think there's much jeopardy here. And I felt in my brain today, you have to feel it too. But it was Yota Tsuji defending his Global Heavyweight Championship against Jack Perry. And yes, listen, Tsuji had only won this 24 hours before. Jack Perry hasn't really done much of anything recently. So you just felt it in your bones when they're not going to pull the trigger here. So while they did have a decent match, there are a couple of other ones that also had this hanging over their heads. So yeah, a minor tiny down, but does it affect your watching of the show at all? No. And am I being a bit of a picky Pete? Yes. Overall though, bless New Japan for always making these little bits part of the story, because of course Yota was competing for the second time in the weekend, which meant his HP bar was really low. Jack was like, I haven't fought for ages, so I'm gonna jump on you and I'm gonna whip your ass. He was also in full scapegoat mode too. I did have a ponder here. I was like, when was the last time we saw Jack on AEW TV? I can't actually remember. I think it was the Danny Garcia stuff. Even though Tsuji was selling fatigue like a champ as well, especially because he was the champ, he still hit this Spanish fly out of nowhere, which is pretty damn cool. So what did Perry do? That's right. He smacked him right in the penis, which is always a very good emergency maneuver tactic. Eventually, Perry started to slow down as well because he was suffering damage, and that's how fighting works. With this Yota, he was just getting out the way of all the moves. It's like me in a barber shop, you can't catch me. He essentially used that to his advantage too, where he sort of hit the Gene Blaster out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3, he keeps his belt. Now I imagine this will be overlooked given the rest of the card, and you could probably argue that maybe it could have been shifted around, but it's not like, repeating myself, it took away from the event, giving it a nap. When we got to the highlight of the night, surprise, surprise, ties right into this, Kenny Omega is back. I mean, the dude was special anyway, but let's not forget he went through some terrible medical issues in 2024, almost died when he walks back into the Tokyo Dome, and he hasn't missed a beat, man. He really is one of the best wrestlers of all time, and I will die on that hill. I mean, it's only the 5th of January, whatever the flub it is, and he's already submitted a match of the year contender. And of course, you have to shout out Gabe Kidd too. It takes two to tango. And in terms of one of a kind, oh my gosh, here we go performances, well, he just hit a home run as well. They even focused on Kenny's diverticulitis here because Kidd was going after the stomach like he wanted to rip out his spleen. And the best part, if that is the right term, is towards the end, when Kenny Omega was going to hit the one-winged angel, but he collapsed in exhaustion because he was totally done. When he went for it again, Kidd floated over and basically applied an abdominal stretch and then smacked him right in the tum-tum. I was like, dude, you all kinds of flubbed up. They were also crashing through tables, doing these insane dives. At one point, the referee got taken out, so they were using all the weapons, including some truly horrific chair shots. And yeah, there was a ton of blood. I don't say that as like a ha-ha poetic thing. I mean, it literally, if you put it in a pot, it would probably weigh a ton. I mean, it is a truly bonkers out-and-out war that you have to go and see, but it's the small things too. At one point, Gabe was slapping Kenny, who was trying to protect himself with his elbows. Listen, I want to sound like a massive nerd, but it kind of looked real. There was also this V-trigger lariat back and forth, which was so damn good. And towards the end, Kidd totally lost his mind. He cast his special powers because he was just hitting Kenny with driver after driver after driver. And there was one especially good near fall where Kenny got his foot on the ropes at the last second, and they had me, man. I actually believe that Kenny Omega could lose. I mean, can you imagine on his big return? It sort of really frustrated Gabe, who kind of screamed into the abyss when he went for one last big move, but that didn't go well, because not only did he get whammed with Kota Ibushi's version of the Kamigoye, up he went, one-winged angel, Kenny Omega gets the win. If I was AEW, I don't care what plans you have down in the book, I would change all of them. I would get to Mox versus Kenny tomorrow, and I'd make Kenny Omega the AEW World Champion, because I've said it once, I'll say it twice. He is one of the best wrestlers to have ever walked this earth. He's just special to the point. Doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. Because no matter what your promotion or where you are, if you have this dude on your books, he should be pushed to the moon. Also, this will be a breakout moment for Gabe Kidd too. I mean, even Tanahashi was crying after this because he felt the emotion and probably felt like, oh, finally New Japan is getting back to where it once was. This was terrific. This was brilliant. This was 7.2 stars, and it was in the Tokyo Dome. That's why it's getting a golden up. Now, of course, the main event was always going to struggle to live up to this because it wouldn't matter who was in there. But it was Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Ricochet. And listen, all things considered, I thought they did a terrific job. It's just so damn well timed because, of course, Rick is a heel now, which is why even before Zack got in the ring, Ricochet just went nuts here, and he smacked him one, then went dive, flippy move. I mean, he was all over his face. I shouldn't have said that. Sabre then came back with the Sagat uppercuts and kind of killed this dude, and it was just such a good juxtaposition. I hate that word, but it's the one that came into my head, because again, one guy was flying, and the other one was trying to use a ground game. There was also this great standoff in the sense that Ricochet was throwing all these strikes, but if he ever did do it too long, Zack would try and grab a limb, but because Rick is so fast, he'd be able to get out of dodge. I was like, man, that is a really fun thing to do. It also means that Rick was only a second away from a submission of death. But I think he just decided, man, screw this, and he threw Zack Sabre to the outside. Honestly, you need to hear that thud. We then got more cuts on the upper region as Ricochet came back by just kneeing Zack right in the face. When Zack kind of grabbed him out of midair, he hit the Sabre driver, and before you could say boo, he had him in the cross arm breaker. How does he do it so quick? Somehow Ricochet still escaped, and he hit the shooting star press for a 1-2-ooh. And what a nerd I am, I actually thought Ricochet was going to beat the IWGP champ. Ricochet then decided he was going to fly once more, but Sabre was like, no, I'm done with this. I'm bored. I don't want to do it anymore. Because he literally floored the guy. He tied him up like a pretzel. He applied that Jim Breaks arm breaker, whatever the flub it is called. And listen, Ricochet didn't actually have any limbs that he could smack on the mat, so he just told the referee, please, I am giving up. I do not want to be killed. So the best part about all of this, aside from the fact that Zack Sabre Jr. is now a defending champion, is this new version of Ricochet. You can't tell me any differently. He is being presented way better than he was in WWE. Not that I'm trying to compare the two. He just needed a fresh kick up the rear, and we're only just getting started, man. I think it has a ton of potential. So it was a solid main event, but yes, like I've told you, nothing could live up to that semi-main event, but that's why you should go watch them back to back. You should probably watch this whole show. Main event is getting an up, and overall, it's getting an up too. Listen, I don't want to be that guy, I don't want to stoke the flames, but I did think this night was way better than what New Japan did on Friday. Now, of course, it's way more important what you thought about the show, so please do leave me a comment below telling me, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And if you would like to jump across to WWE and saw what I thought on SmackDown, ups and downs for the Friday night show is on the screen right now. Also, my friends, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a terrific Sunday. I'll see you next week.